Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
and he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Give me 2 claps in a Ric Flair. Woo! Welcome into the Tuesday edition of the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Sterling Holmes, Josh Brisco. You can follow him on the X at JB Brisco. Myself at Homestretch KC. Not a lot to talk about necessarily.
How dare
in
you?
regards to.
How dare you? Not a lot to talk about. April
Chiefs.
Fools, everybody. There's plenty to talk about.
I
You an
meant
April Fools
specific.
guy?
No, it sucks. It's dumb.
Yeah, I'm really not
Silly.
either. I did one at Seth's expense on Twitter today, but that's all I had the juice for. You can't, and I'm sure there are some people who may disagree, and go ahead and sound off in the comments here, chat. Go ahead and let us know if you have a contrary opinion here. But I don't think it makes a lot of sense to prank your spouse in a house that you share together. Like, I think we haven't had like a bad experience, but at some point Renee and I just sort of realized like we're not here to prank each other. Life's tough enough as it is. If I wake up to let out we're dog sitting. If I wake up to let out our 3 dogs and then I go take a little tinkle in the bathtub and that's hitting saran wrap on the toilet lid, that's all of our problems, right? Like that's all of our problems.
Why are you peeing in the bathtub?
I say bathtub.
Yeah.
That's my prank on Renee. She puts saran wrap over the toilet. I go straight to the bathtub. You wait until April 2nd.
Oh, wow. That's great. Yeah, I'm not an April Fool. Like, why are you trying to fool me? I'm a grown-ass man. Stop trying to fool me.
Yeah.
And by the way, that only works when you see the first one of the day.
Correct.
Like, the first one of the day, you're like, oh, wow, okay, what's going on here? And you're like, oh, yeah, it's April Fool's. Okay, now I know. So if you're not getting by 7:30, sorry, it's April 2nd now.
Yes, absolutely. I knew what I wanted to do to try to make Seth's day worse today. I've known that for several days. So like first thing, my eyes woke up this morning, straight to the Twitter machine to make people think that Seth had quit Only Weird Games. He hasn't. He won't be on today, but he's fine. That was like the first shot, and I do like it when companies do like creative stuff. Like Dave the Diver is a video game that I've played a ton of over the last few years. Really excellent. And they're continuing to do DLC for this game, but it's all pixel art, okay? And aesthetic, it really does it. For me, it's all pixel art. Today, they announced a trailer of the like HD remake or whatever, when they actually had like these super high-end graphics and actors acting out these specific roles you've only ever seen in pixel art before. That's just like an excuse to be creative on April 1st and to say, psych, we do have a new game coming, but we're not betraying the entire aesthetic of the game. Like if I would have thought to shave down to a mustache, maybe buy a hoodie with no hood on it, and put like my own custom beer garden sign behind me. If I would have gotten your background for today, that would have been fun, you know? Oh, they did a little creative thing, but it's Tuesday. Neither one of us had that kind of brain space to share for this show now. It's just a miracle we're here alive.
That would have been fun. I should have done that. I got a whole bunch of things I know nothing about and put it on my and frame it and put it behind me like you.
I could have sent you a picture of my backdrop and we could have just green screened ourselves, and just done like the background replacement, and it could have looked like we were doing the show in each other's offices. I could have come to your house today. We could have actually done this show in each other's houses. We could have left. We could have actually done that. But that would have taken so much work.
Yeah, I like Slothy roasting both of us. Sterling, why are you not peeing in the bathtub? And it's a hoodie with no hood, so a sweater. Good call, Slothy.
No,
apparently we can't fool you, pal.
You've got the tassels around it or whatever. So I feel like I've never known what to call that garment you have. I like it a lot. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels very American. It feels right. I immediately see bald eagles and I see them and scream USA, USA. I don't know.
I think if you wore that with some shorts and some boat shoes like that right there, that's a man who's comfortable on the water. You know, like you can go fill out a spreadsheet if you need to, but this guy spent more than a couple long weekends on the lake.
Oh baby. Don't tempt me with a good time, pal.
I will. I'm gonna tempt you.
Okay, I do want to talk about it. I want to talk. There's not a ton of Chiefs specific news, but there is a lot of news. One semi update in regards to the Chiefs Stadium. We can start here before we get into some of the rule changes, updates, and stuff that did not pass. I know you don't know about this, so I will quickly go over this. This came out yesterday. It's funny. The author's name is actually Eric Fisher. I don't think it's funny. That Eric Fisher from Front Office Sports. So Clark Hunt and Mark Donovan spoke, I believe it was actually yesterday or today, about some of the stadium news. Nothing groundbreaking, but basically along the lines of they want to have something figured out in the summertime. I believe it was July 31st was more or less the thought process here, basically because that's when the star bonds on the Kansas side, that's when they would have to ask for a extension, which I believe there's already been talks about where, yeah, they could ask for an extension, but I think the Chiefs are just saying we don't want to even go down that road because you have to go back through legislation, do a couple more things here. So I think we'll have some sort of identity and real idea by the 31st of, again, I believe it was July. It was either June or July. I'm having trouble finding the exact date in here, but it's pretty interesting because I think it's really hard for the Chiefs to turn down the Kansas offer. I think it's going to be very difficult to say, you know how our first bill in Jackson County was just slaughtered? I know we were partnered with the Royals and they weren't at the time successful. So what was that bringing? Also, the thought process is, okay, but they brought nothing to the table in regards to their actual plans. If they go to the Kansas side, you're spending probably $3 billion versus, let's say, $1 billion to renovate Arrowhead as is. But of that $3 billion, you're getting a brand new stadium. You're getting a dome so you can host Final Fours, Super Bowls. It's the thought process. Concerts year round. If they get I know it's silly to some, but they might get a flag football league. You could host flag football events there. If they build Arrowhead on the Kansas side, there's a lot more things that go into it. That's not just a stadium. So there's two sides to this, but we at least got a little bit of an update today, or I guess yesterday, in regards to when we should have some sort of finality, not finality in regards to the stadium itself, but where they're going to be.
I didn't know if that was a question, if you're ready for me to fire it off. Sorry. Much like the Chiefs and Royals, Sterling, we were a little bit out of sync on getting that plan in front of everybody. And I think that's where it leaves me now, right? This does not change. I don't think, for me at least, I don't think anything that has become public within the last week or month, or really the most of the last year, I don't think has fundamentally changed or locked anything in, which does make me very sympathetic if you're someone listening to this going, oh, great, so it's more stadium talk and the news isn't news yet. Yeah. Welcome to legislation and trying to leverage two states against each other. And that's what's happening here, right? Like what the Chiefs and the Royals are both doing in their own respective ways is trying to figure out how to get the best deal for their ownership group. Not for the state, not for the team, not for the fans, but how can Clark Hunt pay the least of this out of pocket and set the Chiefs up well for the long term, set up the Hunt family well for the long term. Good news, they're going to be fine either way. The Royals are in a similar place there, where obviously John Sherman's looking for the best deal that he can get. The curious thing about the Royals is that I feel like downtown has always made the absolute most sense for them. It's kind of been the logic of this entire move out of Kaufman. They discovered concrete cancer and then never talked about it again after kind of getting the whole stadium thing going. So I have to twist a phrase of Sterling's. I've got 2 scoops of skepticism on every single step of this process because the whole thing has been done in kind of a this free-flowing type of way where it's, oh, well, we'll get it figured out. The Jackson County will vote for this. We'll have our options on this side or that side. And then when the teams have actually been pushed back, the response has been like borderline shock of, wait a second, what do you mean reorienting the parking lot and getting some high-dollar suites at Arrowhead? What do you mean that wasn't convincing to taxpayers in Jackson County? Like, that's the big thing from the vote. I know I'm going back, you mentioned it, but like the big thing from the vote is that the Chiefs limped out something that would only be neutral at best to 90% of the people who'd be attending the games, much less 99% of people living in Jackson County, right? Like what we're talking about, that's what the Chiefs were selling you. The Royals were selling you something that I think had more appeal to it. It was also their 3rd stadium landing spot. They were changing the lines on the blueprints going into after voting open, early voting opened, and the Royals changed their plan again, or the city changed their plan with the Royals, whatever it is. Yeah. All of that to say, what we have seen evidence of to this point is that the teams will be flexible for the sake of keeping their options open. Right now, I think until further notice, honestly, fans probably ought to check out until you get something resembling something a little bit more concrete, I guess.
But not the concrete
cancer-free concrete.
Yeah.
Because at this point, everybody is a pawn who's like paying attention. And this isn't like, oh, just check out and don't pay attention. No. I mean, like you can keep paying attention, but don't have your hopes built up and dashed, whatever you're rooting for. Don't have them built up and dashed every time a new story or a new report comes out, because those things are blowing in the wind right now. Like we can see both evidence to that and understand why that's happening. You've got 2 teams who are now learning that the divorce from one campus was overdue. Maybe the divorce from one state is in the cards. Nothing. I am largely unmoved, though, until there's something a lot closer to either asking people to vote again, or much more likely this all getting passed behind any of our heads in a way that none of us are going to be able to impact.
100%. I wanted to bring it up because this is the first we've heard about it in a while in regards to an actual timeline. Again, the summer, reason being because of the Star bonds saying that they're not going to do an extension. And again, we'll find out. But again, June, July, we should have a legitimate understanding of where the Chiefs are going to be. So basically now I'm saying we could check out until June or July until we get that. So that's where we're at currently on the Chiefs Stadium. My, what I want and what I think is going to happen are 2 different things. I want the Chiefs to stay at Arrowhead. I want that to be renovated. What I think is going to happen is they go to the Legends area. They build a stadium with a dome. And it's not because, fans are soft in the rain. No, it's because they want to host Final Fours, Super Bowls, a plethora of other events. When you think of it from the business side, Clark Hunt is a business owner. He wants to make money. That's what it comes down to, is what is going to be best for his pockets. And he will find a way to massage that messaging to the average fan. Yep. And again, what it comes down to is we're going to hate it originally. I'll push back on it. I'll say this is dumb. I want Arrowhead. I like nostalgia. And then just like Kemper Arena, we'll say, oh, wow, look how nice T-Mobile is. That's what it comes down to every single time. Most times a new stadium gets built. There's pushback for a little bit. And then it's, okay, this is pretty awesome. This is pretty cool. And you build new memories. You don't erase the memories you had previously at the other original spot. You just gain new memories at a new spot. Not what I want. What I think is going to happen, though, is the Chiefs will, in my opinion, I think the Star bonds are too lucrative to pass up.
And I think it makes too much sense for the Royals to not end up in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah. Now, I know we're doing a Chiefs show, but like I think that since the vote got absolutely mollywopped in the way that it did, I have been under the assumption that the reasonable, most likely scenario, Chiefs go to Kansas, Royals go downtown. I think anything other than that, I start to get like a little bit worried that, man, you're on plan Z here. Like what exactly are we getting out of this process? It's good that the process is taking its time, because rushing it through the way that the vote was trying to do was not helpful for people, like to actual people. That was not a good way of going about that. But now we're here now, and the big money's got its hair on fire, and things are speeding up again.
Yeah. And again, I did a show that night on 8/10, the night of the vote not passing, and that was a very interesting night when we went into it going, this is probably going to pass, and then it went from okay, early on looking not great, and then all of a sudden it was like, this is getting destroyed. So the messaging and the funness that I was going to have talking about, look at all this new stuff and what's going to be great, to okay, this sucks, this blows, everyone hates this, so here we go. All right, let's talk about some of the new rule changes in the NFL. And by the way, Jalen says if they do leave Arrowhead, how many more seasons would they have left there? 2031 is the end day of their lease. 2031, and there are a lot of poison pills, if you want to call them, to where they're probably going to play there till 2031 just because it would cost too much money for them to break said lease. So more than likely, that's that 2031. All right. Into some of the rules. NFL owners approve kickoff. They approve replay assist and overtime rule changes. We can start with the overtime rule changes because that's the quickest one. Now, both teams will get the ball, and it'll be a 15-minute quarter instead of a 10-minute quarter. But that's what it comes down to now is playoff.
I think it went the other way around. I think they shortened it because they were, I don't know, double check me, but I think they're doing 10-minute quarters because they were afraid of them going long into the next window of games. Weirdly, that's one specific thing I saw. I think that was the way that it was going, but I don't know.
I don't have that then in front of me. I was wrong then. I don't know. I saw 10 to 15. So Slothy says you're correct. They said 10 instead of 15. So I must have I just read it wrong. Neat.
It happens.
That couldn't be me.
No.
I couldn't have read something wrong.
No, I bet Florio wrote it wrong. Hey, April Fools, everybody. It's 10-minute quarters, not 15.
All right. But what do you make of this? Do you like it? Hate it?
It feels unnecessary, probably closer to indifferent than anything, in large part because I think it was Sam Monson who had this take on Twitter that's kind of an unpopular opinion that I kind of like. Hey, it's the regular season. Win it in regulation. Like, if you wanted to have no overtime in regular season games, that would if that was a player safety argument you made in favor of talking yourself into an 18-game season, I'd at least hear it and go, okay, well, you know, I don't think it's quite to the point where most teams play an overtime game every year, but it's probably something kind of around there. All right, you take this extra time up. Going to more overtime in the regular season is largely irrelevant to me. I understood making sure that both teams were getting the ball in the postseason. Like, I understood the logic of that because, again, you get to when the games matter the most, every little change is something that can rattle the cages a little bit. I also, again, really do not have a ton of outrage or enthusiasm for what you do in the 61st minute of a football game when you knew exactly what the rules were for the first 60. Now you're tied up going into this. Playoffs makes all the sense in the world. Regular season doesn't really move the needle for me one way or another.
I like it. I'd like it just because this is the USA. I love America, and there needs to be a winner. Bleep ties. What is this, soccer? What are we doing here? I'm not France. I don't live in France. I live in America.
You know how good
Canada.
France is at revolutions and striking? That's just something I didn't realize how much we have really been brainwashed on France.
Yeah, okay, because they had a 5'2" guy take over their entire country. Sorry, Napoleon.
Lionel Messi took over way more than that, so I feel like there's just a lot. I think there's a lot of common ground there.
Yeah, well, no, I like seeing winners and losers. Sorry.
Hey, you know what I like? You know what I like? I like settling it in regulation. How about that?
Yeah, well,
don't be a
loser
and how about this? How about don't force yourself to play imaginary game so you can have a little extra freebie? I'm saying you can. I don't really care.
Yeah, sure. Okay, everyone gets oranges, clementines, and a juice box.
Now they're only 10-minute periods, Sterling. So you get to the end of 10 minutes out of 15. Now you're closer to tying than you were yesterday.
I like it.
I don't.
Grow up, France.
Grow down, like Napoleon did. Is your penis in a museum somewhere?
What? What'd you say?
I asked if your penis was in a museum somewhere. Napoleon's is.
Anytime I walk into a museum, it is. So boom, bam, got you.
You know that Napoleon's penis is on display.
I don't care, Brisco. We're moving on. You
brought up Napoleon.
So that is the overtime rule change. NFL approved the kickoff rules. So same thing as last year, but now touchbacks are the 35. Instead of the 30, it is the 35. This one I actually really like. I really enjoy this. I'm a big fan of this because if you want to see the ball actually be taken out, this is the way. We talked about going into the rule change last year. We said, is the 30 going to be penalized enough? Is the 30 even, is it penile enough? Is a Napoleon in a museum enough? And the answer was clearly no, because it made no sense, because they would either, the kickoff team decided, hey, it's not worth it for a big return. It's not worth it. And then the return team goes, we're getting back to the 28 or 29 yard line. Why would we not just go to the 30? So for a yard or two overall, on average, it was not worth it. The 35, though, that is a big difference. I think you're going to see a lot of kickers kick it to the 3, 4, 5 yard line. You'll have to take it out, I think, at that point, and you won't see a lot of balls at the 35. You'll see a lot of balls at the 27 to the 29 to the 30 yet again, but at least you'll actually see the opportunity for big plays to happen. Now, for the Chiefs, you probably hate this because that means Josh Williams is going to get a block in the back penalty.
A place you won't see a lot of balls is with Napoleon's penis. Now, you may not believe this, Sterling, but there is a Wikipedia page dedicated. It is simply just called
Richard,
Napoleon's penis. Now, speaking of Richards, so the thing that I would like to just add here is that I should note there's a little bit of question here. It's determining its verification is difficult, and apparently the item's current owner has allowed 10 people to see it, and it has never been recorded on camera, according to this Wikipedia page. So not actually on display. It's just kind of reached this sort of strange sense of living separately. Well, I guess not living, but separate from the rest of Napoleon. You can read about his little emperor on Wikipedia. What was your question?
I don't know. I don't want to be here.
I like the kickoff rule changing again. I think it's good that it's more penile now, I think is what you said. I do think it makes sense to continue to push it in that direction, to say, like, look, if we're going to make this whole dynamic kickoff thing work, if we're going to try to figure out ways to have returns in the game in a way that doesn't like give you visible evidence of CTE occurring on the field once every 10 kickoffs, which I feel like what was happening when we were growing up watching kick returns. You got wedges, wedge busters, and stretchers on the field occasionally. Like this to me does make a lot of sense. You want to make it an actionable part of the game again, in a way where you are trying to, again, keep it from being such a brain scrambler. I think it makes sense. I did see a comment came through that I now can't even tell who it was. Oh, from Lauren, saying, now, if you kick it out of bounds, it's only 5 yards now. That is the interesting part of this to me, where a kick out of bounds gives you the ball on the 40, but a touchback gives you the ball on the 35. Like, do you start trying to maybe see if, are you risking a little coffin corner kickoff now to try to hit your landing zone and all that? I'm not entirely sure, but I think we're going to have another weird preseason of seeing what this looks like.
Well, again, when it comes down to it, I don't think you're going to see many touchbacks. So I don't think you're going to see the ball start at the 35 very often. I see Odin's son says, why don't you just give the return team the ball on the goal line? 35 is ridiculous. Sorry, I don't agree.
Because you want the kick return.
Yeah, I get, that's fine. If you don't like it, completely understand. I'm not gonna. You also probably didn't like the way it was this year too. That's completely okay. I'm
Ruben saying the days of the human joystick are over. The NFL is trying to bring back the human joystick factor. That's the logic of this. Is you make it, you increase the penalization for a touchback so egregiously, and maybe next year it'll be the 40. Maybe next year it's, hey, the ball needs to land in this landing zone, or they start on the 40 because we want there to be kick returns again. I think it's interesting, and it's worth experimenting with. It's not like we're losing great kickoffs of 2023 in what we've lost here. So I think it makes sense. It's worth seeing at least.
And again, because I don't believe there's good, and maybe I'm wrong. I think it's going to be very rare when a team gets the ball in the 35. I think the average field goal position starting line is going to be about what it was last year, the 28 or 29. I really do. I don't think you're going to see much, and maybe it even goes backwards, because now teams can't start on the teams very rarely will start on the 35.
Right.
Oh, you were almost starting on the 30-yard line, almost guaranteed last year. The returners were actually bringing it down once you brought the ball out of the end zone. So yeah, I think you're going to see a lot more action, a lot more plays, but you'll also see the starting field position actually go back. That's where I'm at in this situation.
Also, Lauren saying no changes to the onside kick. They looked at that, and I think they officially tabled the onside kick conversations they were having. That's the one rule change we didn't get that I kind of thought we might see, that I'm a little bit disappointed to not have in the mix now, because the onside kick is just like so extraordinarily dead, and there are so many relatively easy to brainstorm ways to put that back into a 1 in 10 shot kind of deal. I would have liked to have seen them continue to push on the 4th and 15, 4th and 20, 4th and 25, whatever it's got to be to make the math work out. I would have liked to have seen an addition to the onside kick.
43% was the decrease in concussions from 2023 to last year. 43%.
Is that across
down.
the entire sport, or is that on kickoffs only? I can't.
Let me see.
Either way, that's wild.
Kickoffs.
Okay, cool.
Kickoffs, concussions down 43%. The other big rule that was put through was replay assist. Replay assist has a long way to go, but at least there is a step in the right direction. The replay assist will now replay and be able to reverse flags that are thrown for hits to defenseless players, along with fouls for face mask, horse collars, tripping, and running into, roughing the kicker. But same thing, they cannot add a flag, right? So last year, when was it Jared Verse just ripped the face mask of
Sam Darnold's head off. Yeah.
And believe it or not, Joe Burrow had a couple that should have been called last year that were very obvious in prime time, and we're all like, how was that not called? Even if it's extremely obvious. Jared Verse literally was running with his hands in his head like, how, I can't believe I did that.
Yep.
And then there was no flag.
Yep.
You still can't throw a flag. But if there's a flag thrown and they think it's a face mask, turns out he just grabbed the top of the helmet. No,
you can pick up one of the Mahomes ones that everybody lost their mind about against the Texans.
You can pick it up. Although, again, we heard those were not going to be overturned.
Yeah,
that actually was, by the way, that was actually replay assist last year. That one actually was a replay assist in the playoffs, and they stood with the call on the field. So, again, it is trying to help out, but I also understand why you cannot add one, because when does that stop? What is pass interference? It's too difficult. And then you'd be calling for every single play. So at least this is a step in the right direction in regards to replay assist.
Yeah, I think the quote, the right direction here is essentially finding ways to help out referees with the benefit of technology. The issue is that almost every instance of that is going to be a double-edged sword, where you can pick up flags now, but you can't add them. Okay, are we going to get to the point where refs are throwing 30% more flags in crunch time because they know they can get bailed out for throwing a flag, but not that they can get bailed out for missing one? I don't know. Sometimes that's what you want. You want to see them let the turnover play out because you can undo the turnover, but you can't give the defense the fumble recovery back, right? So maybe we see a little bit of behavioral change in referees that way. I don't know. And I don't know if that would be necessarily a good thing if we did. I do think it makes perfect sense to try to give referees a little bit more of a safety net. Because I've been saying this for years, that like one guy with a pair of AirPods could change NFL refereeing for the better in 30 minutes and $150 or whatever. This seems like it's going that direction, where if you do have one of those sky judges who can say, hey, wasn't a face mask, it grabbed this jersey, you can pick that up. If that happens, ideally, before the flag is announced, which is what the whole point of the replay assist kind of thing is, fantastic. It doesn't have to slow the game down to get it right. If you say, the face mask on the previous play is now under review, and then you go into the slow-mo booth and you've got one finger hooking the corner of the helmet, but not the face mask, now we're doing all those logistics, that's bad for everybody. Making it happen quickly, efficiently, in the flow of the game, I think that's a real positive step in the right direction.
Yeah. A couple more rules that I want to get to before we get out of here. They did not approve Detroit's proposal to eliminate an automatic first down as a penalty imposed for defensive holding and illegal contact. I don't know why. For some reason, holding on offense, it's a 10-yard penalty, and you replay the down. If it is first, or if it's 3rd and 20 and you have a 5-yard defensive holding penalty, it's an automatic first down. I never understood the immense penalty for doing that defensively versus offense. I think it's a little unfair. The fact that this was not tabled yet just immediately shut down is obviously clear. This is going to be the rule change for the foreseeable future. I just have always thought it was silly, yet it's going to be the same rule.
The difference is that on an offensive holding, the offense gets to see what the play would have been. You get to see what the result would have been if that flag wasn't called. Like you see what the result there in that play would have been. On the flip side, if you have an illegal contact or a defensive hold at the line of scrimmage, that might have been a 25-yard gain on 3rd and 15. The wide receiver never had an opportunity to make that play because of the penalty, so I'm fine with this.
Yeah, but what if you are holding the quarterback from getting a sack and you don't know if the ball is going to get fumbled or not? You have no idea if you're going to knock the ball out. You have no idea.
Well, it'd be bad play. It would still be bad for the offense regardless, right?
Sure, agreed. I don't know.
So penalizing the losing team there.
Yeah, what?
Because if defensive holding is a 5-yard penalty, if it's 3rd and 15, why wouldn't you have all of your corners trying to hold at jam and hold and make them call it? Do this all game and make them call it 10 times. 5-yard penalty, no biggie. Free first down on 3rd and 15, it becomes punitive against the defense that way.
Okay, we will agree to disagree. Then they also tabled for further discussion also the Detroit Lions' proposal to make playoff seeding based on regular season records as the guiding principle rather than division championships. Of course, Detroit would want this now that they're finally good, because for 50 years this did not matter, but now that they're good, they're complaining because they think the Vikings, this would be the Sam Darnold rule. This is like, because we thought Sam Darnold had a good regular season that we should change this. Or it's because you play in the NFC North. Sorry, you got to play the Bears last year. I get it. I understand when Seattle was 7-9, they hosted a home game. It was, the humanity. But then we also got to witness the Beastquake. It's very rare. That is the outlier. Win your division. There's a reason they have them. And then you have to get into the insane arguments of, what's their strength of schedule and how did this happen? And what was the division winners? Because the NFL is built for parity. The NFL wants every team to go 9-8. That's what it's built for. If you get last, you draft first. If you get first, you draft last. Not only that, if you get first, you play a first place schedule. If you get last, you play a last place schedule. So how are you going to do that? This to me is asinine. It's absurd. I am so glad it didn't pass. I understand the thought process of there's going to be teams that go 12-5 and get screwed because a team wins a division at 9-8. Sorry, it happens. It's the outlier. That's the way it has been. That's the way it should be. You're opening up a massive can of worms if you change this. I'm glad this got shot down, but it is tabled, which means it's not quite out of the woods yet.
It's just sort of odd to me, too, because I don't think I've really gotten a good answer for the obvious follow-up questions. I think there are 2 obvious follow-up questions to this. 1, what are divisions for, if not for this? And 2, what are conferences for? If you really want it to be fair, let's just scramble all 32 of them up, man. You can just get seeded all the way 1 through 14 and split up the Chiefs and the Lions have the best records in football this year. They're your 1 to 2 seeds. Or actually, you know what? The Chiefs and the Chargers were both 15-2. They're the 1 seed on the left side and the 1 seed on the right side. You want just a full random bracket every time? I don't know. I'm with you. Point being, I think if you have divisions, you want there to be a reward for winning the division. AFC West champions. What does that mean if you're going on the road to go face who I literally pick anybody? The Steelers, who happen to go have a 12-win season behind the Ravens' 13-win season. You've cheapened those Steelers-Ravens games or these Chiefs-Chargers games or whatever it is. I think you've cheapened the divisional impact by trying to take that away from a huge deal. Yes, playoff games, massive. Divisional games are massive. Regular season games matter. I don't know. That one really does not make sense to me.
And I understand the thought process of, you get in either way. It's if you're hosting or not. It based on seeding, point still remains. It's just, to me, I think the absurdity of it should matter if you win your division.
And again, I think winning the division is different if it's okay. Great, you've punched your playoff berth right there with the 7 seed wild card team. Like I just think I think you have decided in advance with the structure of the league and the structure of sports, winning your network, right? It's mostly going to be divisions in most sports. Winning your division gets you in air quotes championship. AFC West champions, AL Central champions. We're the champions of this 4 or 5 team division. Making the playoffs is obviously important, but like I think you have fundamentally undercut the idea of division championships meaning anything, as you just sort of chip that away. And again, why not just make it your top 14 teams if you want? I feel like
this, for the NBA.
This like, and I'll tell you what, I'm a Suns fan whose team has superstars and isn't even gonna make the play-in. I don't need an NFL play-in either. You know, I think divisions seem okay to me. I think it's okay that divisions matter. Also, that structure, you mentioned this with the Lions, that cycle is, believe it or not, cyclical. The Chiefs have been on both sides of that coin. I understand when Peyton Manning was in Denver, it was not a fun time to be thinking about the AFC West. Sorry to Broncos fans now who have to get through Patrick Mahomes. It's just, I don't know, it's sports. Sometimes it takes 10 years for there to be justice.
All right, final one before you get out of here. Tush Push is tabled. Not banned, not approved. 16 out of the 32 owners wanted to ban it, and 16 wanted to keep it. You got to get to 24, 75%. So 50-50. We do not know what Andy Reid said. He was very much on a fence, almost just said, yeah, Brett Veach handles that. That's basically what I think he wanted to say, because he just kept going, well, if there are injuries, you want to take a look at it, but maybe there's not injuries, but it sure looks like there could be injuries. And he that fence he sat on was directly in the middle.
He's pushing his tush.
And there's been some concerns about safety, but where was this? There was NFL Chief Medical Officer Dr. Alan Sills said there's no injury data to support a ban, but still the mechanics of the play could lead to injuries. So it's
unlike every other football play. I don't really want to be the tush push guy. I don't really want to defend the tush push. But do you know why people don't like it? It's not because of injuries. It's because it doesn't look very cool and it's not very fun. Like, it looks kind of cool the first time, right? But like, all right, great. Well, it's 3rd and 1 against the Eagles. I know what they're going to run and I know the result. Worst case scenario, maybe it'll take them 2 tries to get it. But like that, it's just, people are bored of it, understandably. If it was being successfully used as a weapon across the entire NFL, I would have a much easier time saying, like, look, it's bad for business. It's a cheat code for a free yard for every NFL team. Fine, get it out of here. That's not what's happening, though. And the Eagles have done it with and without Jason Kelce now. I don't know if it's a Jalen Hurts play, if it's the rest of the Eagles offensive line. Truthfully, it's both. But I don't know, man. Like banning a play because one team got really good at it doesn't set well with me.
Yeah, I think Nikki says it perfectly. Teams don't like it because they can't do it.
Right.
And that was my frustration. I hate watching the play. When I was watching that playoff game between Washington and the Eagles, I was so annoyed. What's Washington supposed to do? I get it, but end of the day, I don't know how you ban it because one team is so good at it.
Yeah. Like, I
know the Bills were good at it, but they weren't that great at it when it mattered most in the playoffs, right?
It also, somebody made this point where McDermott was talking about the injury risk. I think, and whoever it was said, like, yeah, the Bills are so worried about injuries. They only ran it 4 times against the Chiefs in the playoffs this year. It might have been more than 4. I can't remember how many times it was.
And then you have to throw into, okay, then where does it stop? When a running back is pushing the pile, when he's up in the air and his legs are moving like a cartoon because he's getting carried by Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey, and yet we're all thrilled going, look at him churn the pile, look at him get an extra 5 yards. And you're like, yeah, well, he didn't do anything. He was getting pushed by the offensive lineman. Is that now all of a sudden going to be a penalty? Is that something you can no longer do? I just think it's a slippery slope. I looked it up. The QB sneak success rate, I think Yale did a study, it was like 82.8%, right? And the tush push by the Eagles last year was like 83.2. It was hardly better. Now, it used to be in the 90s, and you can also make the pushback of, okay, well, that also counts 3rd and 1 when they just go for it again on 4th and 1 and then pick it up. Sure. So what's that actually count like? I don't know if it's a great way of breaking that down, but it's not like the success rate is anything crazy different than the QB sneak. It just is a unfun play that no one likes, that one team really has an amazing benefit from. So all you're really doing is penalizing one team because 31 other teams either can't do it or won't do it. And I don't think that's fair. That's where I'm left. I'm left going, I don't know how you ban it because it penalizes one team so much more than the rest of the league.
I agree with all of that completely. So I'm just going to ask you a fun little fact that I'm almost completely sure that the numbers will back me up on. Do you know who the most successful quarterback sneaker was of all time before Jalen Hurts and the tush push ever got involved? I don't think Hurts may not have passed him in terms of success percentage, but
Tom Brady.
Athletic marvel, Tom Brady. I've seen his combine tape many times. They used to play it during his primetime games constantly.
You normally watch Chris Jones one, don't you? Isn't that your go-to?
They don't show that as often on the TV as they did the Brady ones. The Brady one made it onto broadcast television a lot more. The Chris Jones one is the one that I see when I close my eyes sometimes. It's jarring. I'll tell you what, Napoleon, nothing to worry about. It sure is. You got to be here for the entire show to get all of those jokes. Man, I'm with you. The Eagles got really good at it. Other teams are welcome to try it. If the rest of the league takes over with it, then you can adjust. But right now, I can't. Maybe I'm biased because the Chiefs haven't played a big game against the Philadelphia Eagles in a little while. But when in doubt, make it 3rd and 4. Like, all right, it's 3rd and 4. We will try to stop a different play now. That tush push whining does very, very little for me. Stop it. Football at its core is about push and tush.
Yeah.
The Eagles are good at it.
Yeah. And I get it. People who say, the offense can push, the defense can. That's fine. That's fine. But then you're getting to a whole nother rule change. That's not just the tush push. That's a whole nother scenario to open up. And we'll leave it there. Again, I've grown as a human to where I've hated the tush push so much that I've broke it down and tried to look more into it and found myself saying, I don't know how you ban it, and I hate being on this side, yet here I am because I like watching fun football plays. That play sucks, but, it's, in my opinion, still a legal NFL play. This was fun, Brisco. I liked it. There's not a lot going on besides rule changes and potential updates to the stadium, which didn't really say much because it's March. No, it's April 1st. It's April.
Napoleon's penis was allegedly amputated during an autopsy shortly after his death in 1821. Since then, it has passed through several owners, including...
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please, Richard, go ahead and mute Brisco's mic. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us.
It was described as similar to a piece of leather or a small shriveled eel.
Give us a like or review. Not after that, please. Oh my gosh, Brisco, that was absolutely horrible. I'm so glad he's off screen. Thank you for hanging out with me and tolerating Brisco. Until next time, we are out.